Silverco's reported bad debt expense for the current year was $12,000 on its P&L. The company's allowance for uncollectible accounts receivables were $114,000 at the end of the current year. So important that you note that's the end of the current year. At the end of the prior year, so this is going to be the beginning balance of this year, the allowance for uncollectibles were $105,000. Sorry if I underlined that. What amount did Silver record as its actual bad debt expense write-offs in the current year? So keep in mind, we're talking about the write-offs here. So what is the basic formula for the allowance for uncollectibles? So we know that we're going to have a beginning balance and an ending balance. But what about all this stuff in between? So we know that at the beginning of the period, this is going to be our beginning of the period contra asset. So contra asset at the beginning of the period, and this is going to be our end of the period contra asset. So just remember, this is going to be reflected on the balance sheet. So we're going to be increasing this by our bad debt expenses. This is also known as our increase to this balance. And we're going to be subtracting it by our write-offs. Why are we subtracting our write-offs? Because basically these are going to be the amounts that we are giving up on. Essentially, we're saying that we think that of all of our allowance for uncollectibles that are still pending, we're giving up on this amount. We don't think they're going to be collected ever. So at the end of the day, this is going to be calculating our ending balance for our allowance for uncollectibles. We know that our beginning balance is $105,000. Right? It tells us there, even though I kind of messed up that underline. And our ending balance, we know, is going to be $114,000. So now it's just a matter of plug and chug. We know that we're going to be adding our bad debt expense and subtracting our write-offs. Bad debt expense for the year is $12,000. And we're going to be solving for our write-offs. So if we take the $105,000 beginning balance plus the $12,000 in our current year expense, we get what? $117,000. Our ending balance we know is $114,000. I'm no mathematician, but $117,000 less what equals $114,000. Our write-offs are going to be assumed as $3,000. That's going to be our plug figure. B is correct.